the esports studio. Glue Cups are done, it is time for the Porsches. And Jamie, we have got quite the lineup tonight. It is Le Mans in the Porsche Cups, which on the face of it, I think to drivers who aren't used to iRacing, perhaps there's a slightly unusual combination, but I feel like this is almost a bit of a classic now that we see it in PESC every single year. This is sort of something that we've become accustomed to, this slipstream circuit in these Porsche Cup cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be truthful as well, they race here in real life. It's part of the support series for the 24 hours of Le Mans. And yeah, we've seen over the years that the racing in the Porsche Cup cars are, well, just extraordinary, really. 3 and 4 wide, using the hard shoulder, a lot of carnage, a lot of destruction, but a lot of really good racing as well, a lot of drama. I can't wait to sit down and get stuck into watching this.
And we've got the different format as well for tonight. So usually we have the elimination format where we have 2 10-minute heats and then into a B final and then into an A final. None of that tonight. It's just one race, 1 hour long race. One pit stop needed for the drivers as well because they're limited to just 60% fuel. And last time out at Monza, the last time that we used this layout, caused absolute havoc for the drivers, with many drivers under fueling, many of them mistiming their pit stops. It was error filled and caused a very intense final 10 minutes to the race. So hopefully it is going to be the same thing tonight. And I think this is a good circuit, Jamie, to have this different format because it's so much of a fuel race, I think, tonight. I think if you're leading the first half of the race, you're almost out of contention at that point because surely you're going to have to do maybe one less lap in that first stint. You're going to be on high fuel whilst the others are going to be on low fuel for that one lap. You're going to have to take more fuel at your pit stop. So are we going to see a bit of a you go first, no you go first, for example, tonight, you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. It's hard to know. It depends obviously on how close they are to going the extra lap or not, or going 1 lap short. The strategy is going to be huge. If you're in the lead, I suspect there might be some weird, funny games where the person leading really doesn't want to lead and will do anything in their power to make sure they're not leading, which can cause some chaos and carnage in itself. But yeah, the pit stop phase is going to be crucial. Maximizing your speed through pit lane is going to be critical. If you can get a jump on your competition and they start squabbling, well then you're in for a tremendous chance of a fantastic result.
Yeah, and timing those overtakes correctly, as you say, like making sure that you're not batsing during that pit stop sequence is so important. We often see drivers make that mistake, and we'll see if they're wise enough not to kind of fall for that tonight. In the championship, it has really gone the way of Maxime Marriott in recent rounds. A race win last time out at Sebring has opened up his championship lead. Nick Madsen with a mistake right at the start of the A final from the lead. May have seen that on social media earlier on today on the Apex Racing League and Apex Racing TV, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook accounts. That really cost him ban, and Madsen as well with a qualifying ban as well tonight for an incident that he had last time out. Really is looking good for Maxime going into this round, but plenty of others up there: Velgut, Knowles and Kay, Costa as well, who was very strong last time at Monza until he had a pit lane speeding penalty. He'll be hoping not to cause the same mistake again. In the Pro-Am Championship going into this round, a slight change recently in terms of the kind of competitive order, but still Howard Esciotto had a mega start to the season, still leading the way, but João Afonso and Albert Kotchop closing in on him. Salvatore Lano has been in fantastic form as well recently, and in the Amateur Championship as well, being the most sort of up in the air championship so far this season, being very close. It is currently Ed Eisenring at the top of that one, with Alessio Pasquale, who did lead for a few rounds, in 2nd place, and Daniel Zanon in 3rd position there. In your experience around this circuit, Jamie, when you've raced here in PESC, like, are there any kind of elements that sort of the drivers may not be familiar with going into this round that they should be aware of when you race at this circuit?
So there's one massive one that's really important to note is it's very likely that the cars will end up in the rev limiter in top gear towards the back end of the run to the first Mulsanne chicane and the run into Mulsanne corner as well in particular. So it's not straightforward actually to make overtakes around here, because you'll pull alongside and then run out of gear essentially, and you'll stall out and then end up side by side through the chicane. So if you're going to make a move on someone, you've got to really commit to it. You're not going to get them for free around here.
And I guess when you're in the limiter like that, how do you save like the most amount of fuel in that case? Is it quite simple that once you get into the limiter you just go on half fuel, or is there like or half throttle pressure, or is there something else that you need to do?
That could work. That's a definite strat. It's a tricky one though, because yes, they'll end up in the limiter, but you don't want to like concede ground at the same time. So there probably is like a sweet spot in terms of a throttle percentage where you can sit right up at the limiter, not use as much fuel, but still maximize your run down the straight. So those that have a lot of experience in both races of this type, where it's quite fuel related, and that's the key point to it, and also experience with the car and the track, those are the drivers who'll probably profit most this evening.
Definitely, and you can see the track map in our background. Negotiating Indianapolis 18 and 19, very tricky part of the circuit. I'm not a huge fan, if I'm totally honest, of this circuit, Jamie, to drive, just because you have to run so little wing that it feels like it's constantly on edge of the car whenever you have to go into the corners. The Porsche curves, fantastic section of corners, but when you got zip minimum wing, it can be very tricky to sort of deal with that. Is it possible to dial in the car so that you can take confidence, or is it always a matter of having to compromise your aggressiveness in order just to get through those corners?
It's quite interesting. I've actually never really had too much of an issue of having a car, even on minimum drag effectively, be that loose around here, because you want to have the car sat so low to the ground, both front and rear, to maximize your aero down the straight, that the car ends up being a little bit understeery even with all the wing taken out of it. So it ends up being a little bit pushy through corners like the Porsche curves, through Cardine, through Tetra Rouge as well. It's understeer that I think might actually catch these guys out more so than lariness at high speed.
Yeah, so certainly something to keep an eye out on when the drivers are out there later on. I should also just mention the Teams Championship as well going into this round of the Championship. Of course, no drop scores in the Teams Championship, and so it can change very quickly, can the points. And it's currently Impulse Racing, only 8 points clear of Mag Performance, SRT, WS Racing, Esports in that third position, Manatee, ATRS, and Core Motorsports rounding out the top 6. But yeah, still very competitive in there, and some decent prizes as well for the drivers for those positions. But well, currently the drivers are in their practice session. Will be soon launching into qualifying as well. 15 minutes for the drivers to put a lap together. So we will hop along to Le Mans, and we will see you back on the other side in just a few moments' time. Welcome to Le Mans for this round of the Championship, round 6 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup, and the drivers are currently negotiating this qualifying session. And very unusually, Jamie, of course the drivers would have prepared this circuit already in the official series, but that is when you're out on circuit by yourself. You don't have to do an out lap, but because the drivers are doing group qualifying tonight, they have 15 minutes. And whilst they still have the 2 laps that they've very much come accustomed to, they've got to do an out lap as well. Does that change the elements at all? Do you need to practice that out lap in order to get your tyres into the best position for your progress?
100% around here.
the lap is that long that you can manipulate the tire to sort of be how you want it to be. You can either go really hard on the out lap and sort of push through the sort of awkward phase that it can have, you know, lap, like first flying lap, and then have the tire good for the second lap, or you can take it really, really easy, put nothing into the tire, coast round, and then, you know, try and make the most out of that first flying lap, knowing that maybe lap 2, lap 3 won't be so strong.
Yeah, and so hopefully that's something that the drivers are prepared for already, as they are all out on their first flying lap at the moment, and it will just be the 2 laps that they get in. Well, technically they're unlimited laps, but unless they're willing to get under the 3-minute mark in this qualifying session, they will be struggling to get more than 2 laps in, because once that 15 minutes is up, that's it. You can't complete the lap that you start like you have in real life motorsport on the most part. Once that 15 minutes is up, that is it. So they do need to complete their lap. So already almost half the session complete. I'm trying to look at some of the fastest times at the moment, and some good times for Samuel Jordan and Tommy Molliord and Salvatore Lane setting purple sectors, but it's such a long lap, honestly, Jamie. You can't just be good for 20 seconds of the lap. It's how you put the whole thing together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long lap, and you might even sacrifice a little bit of pace at the start, as we look at Philip Hammer, and he's got someone there in the background as well, cheering him on, I'm sure. But yeah, because of how sensitive the tires are in the Porsche Cup, you might sacrifice your first sector to be stronger towards the end of the lap. That's how critical the tires are around here, you know, with the length of the lap that we have. So we'll not read too much maybe into some of the sector times early doors here. We'll need to see just some full lap times as they come through. The first contenders are starting to come towards the back end of the lap and the final sector. It'll be interesting to see what lap times they start to put down right off the bat.
Yeah, let's see what this session's going to be like, because we're basically going to have 2 moments where loads of drivers are going to cross the line. So get ready for that position board on the left to start populating. Actually, Marriott, championship leader, he may well be the first man to set a lap time as he negotiates the final chicane. Looks all good for him. He's still pushing. Looks like this isn't going to be invalidated. And the man who is the man in form most of all at his home circuit isn't on pole position. In fact, he's last right now. Not for very long though. Salvatore Lane though, with a fantastic lap. 2 purple sectors I pointed out earlier on. I didn't think he was going to keep it up for the whole session. He has been in great form himself as well, and crucially with a really good draft on Maxime Marriott, perhaps helping him to those 2 purple sectors, and with a very similar position for the second lap, he could well follow it up with an improvement. Lane at the top. Thomas Cope, good to see him back up there. Remember, he won back at Brands Hatch, but really hasn't been able to perform quite the same level since, albeit did do very well when he was racing from the Apex Racing Sim Centre last time out on equipment that he wasn't totally familiar with. Managed to get 5th position in the end back at Sebring 7 days ago. And those final few drivers setting times, but a lot of invalidated lap times there. Jamie, no surprise with the difficulties of the slowdowns around this track.
Yeah, precisely that. Slowdowns are an absolute killer around here. And it's so important, especially given we've only got 15 minutes here. It'll be 3 timed laps, realistically. You've got to get something on the board early and only then start to push. Just your point, though, with Lorne sticking it on provisional pole position. Sector 3 and Sector 4 were about half a second quicker overall than Marriott, and those are 2 sectors where it's all straight line business. So he's just zipped up to the back of him, really. With the straight line speed advantage of the slipstream, and that's where a good chunk of that advantage has come from.
Few drivers with pit lane starts for this round: Gareth Higgins, Igor Kos, Matej Stromeri, Nick Madsen, crucially 2nd place in the championship, Razvan Pahontu and Pedro Espedina, all with qualifying bans. They will be able to start on the grid, albeit will be back at the final chicanes. Whereabouts what position do you get to where you start gridding up at the final chicane, Jamie? I feel like that's a very insulting question, as though you've been there in the past. And
yeah,
I hope that you haven't, but
I have.
When you look in your mirrors, what position usually is it that becomes a problem?
I believe it's anything outside the top 18, top 20. You start pointing off in a very different direction to the start-finish line. So for those cars, and bear in mind as well, we've got some big names there with qualifying bans, and we'll have to start at the back. It's going to be very hard for them to make big moves early on. And despite this obviously being a track where a lot of action and a lot of overtaking will happen, if you get strung out very early on, it's hard then actually to bridge the gap, because everyone up front is just going to be pushing each other along.
Tommy Molliard with perhaps the best profile picture of the season. We do love a webcam, but that is a really good effort there from Tommy. Really do appreciate anyone who puts up a profile picture on the SDK Gaming driver information app. If you go to sdkgaming.co.uk, then you can download that app, and once you're in the sim you can upload all sorts of information, but those profile pictures are the best ones to upload, so big thanks to Tommy there for doing that. As the drivers are sort of entering the final third of their laps right now into Indianapolis and Arnage, and of course into the Porsche curves and the Ford chicanes as well at the end of the lap. Just 3 more minutes of the drivers to go, but of course a reminder that this final lap, that will be it for them. They will not have time to start and finish another lap, so whatever the times are, once they all cross the line, that is how this one race tonight that we have is going to grid up. It is absolutely crucial and high tension for these drivers with the difficulties of off tracks. Philip Hammer, I've been saying a few drivers being in good form. He is definitely one of them as well, as Maxime Marriott is not going to be on pole position. He goes to 2nd position. Albert Krotchop in 3rd place. That's only 1/10 of a second off around a 4-minute lap time. Ever so close. But watch out for this man, Philip Hammer. Not anything particularly inspiring on his lap, at least one personal best sector, but I'm not exactly sure how far up this is going to put the WS Racing esports driver, but he's still pushing along, Jamie, and he's keeping it within the white lines.
Yes, indeed. 7th position isn't a bad spot to be in, and doesn't look like there's a massive amount of improvements elsewhere at the moment. Might be a few coming in very soon, but if he can consolidate and maybe slightly improve that position, I'm sure he'll be quite pleased with that. Crosses the line. Jordan up into P4, and Hammer.
Oh, it was an improvement, but not enough to put him up any places. 2/10 quicker for Philip Hammer, but he remains in 8th place ahead of Mario Velko. It's a slightly mixed up order, honestly. Lane, Krotchop, Jordan all very much overperforming. Tiago Pereira with a fantastic qualifying as well. I mean, Pereira was in good form back at Sebring, but still P6 in qualifying is a really fantastic effort from the core motorsports drivers. Nicholas Norrell puts himself up there. That's no surprise whatsoever to see him so far up. He's up in 7th place. And Aidan Young, he's left it a little bit later, and a fair few drivers who have left it a bit later with a bit more clean space, they will still be competitive in this session. Kevin Richard at his home race crosses the line. He gets into 11th in that big bunch of Pro-Am drivers who occupy 11th places, 11th down to 22nd. Apart from this man, Aidan Young, who will cross the line with probably about 20 seconds to spare in this qualifying session. He was up in 3rd position, I believe, in qualifying last time out at Sebring, so expect him to get up there as well.
Yeah, and he's got an identical time to Alexandre Charlet, so any improvement he gets will bump him up at least 1 position, so plenty to work with here for Aidan Young. Coming through karting now and then into Corvette. Very tricky sequence of corners where you're just flicking left, flicking right, and the Porsche Cup car, whilst an agile beast, isn't quite as responsive as maybe like a GT3 car or an LMP that often frequents the circuit here. So see how it goes. Oh, it's aggressive over the curb on the way through the Ford chicane, and then final chicane to bring it over the line. Aggressive curb usage, but neat and tidy on the way out. What's it going to be in terms of lap time?
Can he get amongst his other pro drivers? I think it might be a bit of an anticlimax. Maybe it was invalidated. He was pushing all the way, but still 2 seconds off the pace for Aidan Young. He'll be disappointed with that one. Will the American driver, of course, also driver in the Formula 4 Championship on a Saturday night. That'll be returning tomorrow as well. But that is the qualifying session complete. And incredibly, a Pro-Am driver on pole position. Tim Cox will be absolutely loving this. Hopefully he's watching along. But he always roots for the underdog, and we have got an underdog up there, Salvatore Lane. Admittedly, with a slight draft on Maxime Marriott, but he put himself into that position, and it is half surprising that Marriott did not pick himself a draft himself. But he starts in second place. Albert Kotchop starts in third. Then Samuel Jordan, Thomas Cope, Thiago Pereira, Nicholas Manold, Ivory Laubscher, Philip Hammer, and Mario Velka round out the top 10. Then it's Kevin Richard, Andrea Del Piccolo, Victor Taras in 13th place. Then it's Tommy Molliord, Alexander Chalet, Aidan Young, Corey Lazarus, Howardus Yatortas, Pro-Am Championship leader, remember. Yatortas not quite with the same pace in the last few rounds, albeit he did say in the first couple of rounds that he was putting in a lot of practice, and so if he hasn't quite been able to put as much time into it, not much of a surprise that he slipped down the order a little bit. Max Furtwängler and Samuel Boykema round out the top 20. There's Olaf Sorchuk, good to see him back. Samuel Sproul in 22nd place. Then it is top of the amateur drivers, Thorsten Seifert in 23rd, Chris Rance in 24th. There's Ed Eisenring, remember championship leader in the AMS, Paul Joseph Klist in 26th place, and Maihei Zaharia, the slowest qualifier, but I don't think Maihei's 16 seconds off the pace. I expect him to be much faster later on. The drivers who did not score do a qualifying lap: Nick Madsen, Nathan Willoughby, Pedro Espadina, Igor Kos, Mateus Drameri, Jordi Sevilla, Danny Hukendorn, and Razvan Pahontu rounding out the 35 cars. And no surprise at all that the one driver who's not on the grid is Nick Madsen, and doing it as Nick always does, he joins the grid 3 seconds to go. And so we are ready for 60 minutes of action at Le Mans. Here we go, the 5 lights are on. Salvatore Lane leads us away from the field. It's not a good start, however, and it might well be 3 wide going into turn 1, because it's a fantastic start for Albert Kotchop from third on the grid, who storms into the lead here at Le Mans. Marriott might be able to get underneath him through turn 1. He'll be on the outside for turn 2. We've got a couple of drivers off. I think that's Seifert who's gone across the circuit, and the drivers trying to avoid him. Aidan Young gets involved in that one of the Blackout Motorsports drivers as well. But they all kept heads up, and I think, considering the circumstances, they did well not to have more incidents right there. Thomas Cope trying to get underneath Samuel Jordan, but it's not a good start for Lane. It wasn't an awful start either for Maxime Marriott, but Albert Kotchop rocketing into the lead, and he is first position going onto the Mulsanne straight for the first time.
Yeah, super start from Kotchop, but a lot of carnage behind. I was amazed that it wasn't a lot worse than that. I seen the car spinning and feared for a solid 20 cars of the field there.
Cope with a slowdown, I think.
Looks like it, yeah. And bear in mind, this lap 1, that slowdown is going to be brutal for him. That's going to cost him a lot of time and a lot of positions.
Here comes Marriott. He's now into the lead, and with 2 Pro-Am drivers behind him, you might feel like he has the chance to break the draft. Samuel Jordan gets past Lane. In fact, Lane starting to drop down the order himself. I think he's just gone wide, and that might be a slowdown as well for Lane, cutting the final part of that chicane too much, you think, Jamie?
Yeah, it has to be. You can see the shake of the head as well. He's very frustrated at how that's went, and he cannot get it served either. So our pole setter is down 18 positions in the first half a lap, and possibly going even worse.
Yeah, he made some contact with the wall as well as his webcam went off, so I wonder if he was saying hardware. And now have we got another slowdown for Maxime Marriott? We do. He was pushing it too much as well.
Nobody wants to leave.
These guys, you know, it'd be surprising if maybe this was a track out of nowhere that we were going to, but these guys have had all week in the official series to practice these lap 1s. It's no different, really. And yet,
he still cannot get it through.
They are picking up these slowdowns, and they are big penalties you get here at Le Mans. This is probably the worst one, to be honest, and at least he's not cut that corner. But it is Kotchop who leads back again then. 3 different leaders in the first half of this race, and it's Albert Kotchop leading the way. It's Jordan in second place. We've got big gains of Velga up 6, Del Piccolo up 7, Ola Sorchuk, he's up 12.
That's a massive game for Sorchuk. And also something to note, nobody's really broken away anywhere, as we've not built like a huge gap. Top 18 or so cars are within draft of the car ahead, so it's really only Seifert who's leading in the AM standings, who's fallen off the big group ahead.
What's that for Thiago Pereira? I wonder if he got a slowdown. We certainly saw Cope got a slowdown. Frankly, I'm surprised Cope is that far off, because Tetra Rouge, that's a bad slowdown as well around this circuit. So yeah, Cope only being 5 seconds off the lead. I thought he would be more than that, but he's racing with Pereira very furiously right now. Here comes Ivo Laubscher as well. He's going to be a bit boxed in into the Porsche. He's going to have to go offline a bit. Won't be quite so bad in these races. Cope is off the circuit, and that could be a very dangerous rejoin as well, because he is not going to be able to control the car, but he does well. He finds that bit of tarmac, and Thomas Cope with a very disappointing lap 1. Just so it looked like he might be giving himself a chance at a podium, getting back on the podium for the first time since Brands Hatch. Doesn't look like it's going to happen after all. Pereira ends up in 11th place.
Someone that we should definitely pay attention to. Nick Madsen up 14 places, started at the back, and he's not totally out of this. There's a long way to go here, and if he's quick enough, he can pick these guys off one by one. Who knows how far up he can get.
Another slowdown. Laubscher cutting the forward chicanes too much. Madsen, if you ask Madsen after lap 1 that you'd only be 4 seconds behind Maxime Marriott, I think he would take that in a heartbeat. But I really thought that this was going to be a debilitating qualifying ban for Madsen tonight, but he's done the best of it that he possibly can, and well, a race winner I totally wouldn't rule out, but probably far-fetched, but I think a top 5 is looking likely. Honestly, for him right now, all the drivers ahead of him, he will feel like he well may have the pace on. So Quatchup leading the way, and this is a slightly unusual 1, 2, 3. I mean, Nicholas Knowles has some very good success so far this season as well, it should be added, but Quatchup, Jordan and Nold, slightly unusual, and they have made a break, and now they need to start working together. But how do they do that, Jim?
They do that by pushing the lead car along, as you might see. No, Jordan is sort of backing out of it, but the front 3, it is so important for them to not fight and not actually put Albert Quatchup under any real pressure. Let him get the car through the corners and then push him along down the straights.
Yeah, that's certainly the name of the game, and see if these guys do the same thing. Mario Velga, I feel like, is a worthy leader of this chain. I guess you want the fastest driver at the front of the chain if you can possibly get them there. And, well, maybe Marriott, to be fair, is a little bit fast, seeing that he is the championship leader as it stands, and after that, so then they picked up earlier on at the second Mulsanne chicane. Will he do the same thing? He's going to leave particularly large amounts of space. He's taking a similar line to the others, but no risk of it that time round through there. He's all good contact with Thomas Cope with another incident. And of course, Aidan Young being located in the US, a slightly worse ping for him compared to other drivers, and Cope having to hesitate now. And that was very close to contact there, but Cope realised his precariousness and backed out of it and rejoins the circuit safely.
Yeah, it looked like a sizable amount of air between the cars there, so horrible luck for Thomas Cope there, but ultimately was his own doing with getting slowdowns in the opening lap and running wide in the Porsche curve, so he's ended up back there through his own fault, and, you know, obviously that final blow for him is most unfortunate, but he didn't need to be all the way down there in the first place.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Samuel Jordan, okay, not with the bump drafts, but so getting very close as Barrios up into 5th place, and he is catching up to these guys quickly. As here's a replay at the start, and it really was just, it wasn't even a bad start from Lane, honestly. It was just Quatchup seemed to get the best out of absolutely everyone in the field, and then you had the contact further back. It was Chalet, I think, with the contacts, and Cypher rejoining the circuit quite dangerously. He actually cut the entire first couple of corners, didn't he? But did well not to make worse of it, honestly.
Yeah, that was actually an excellent piece of driving, and realization that if he tried to pull that car back towards the circuit, he was T-boning someone, so hooked a hard left and was able to get through there scot-free. A series of slowdowns, and then the incident there with Young and Cope as well.
I mean, whilst that was netcode, dare I say, even if there wasn't netcode, they may have been heading towards one another anyway. They weren't exactly leaving a whole lot of space for one another. And interesting, that Lane one as well, very much indicating that Lane actually had technical issues beforehand, because he was like deliberately driving off the circuit before getting the slowdown. Then of course we saw his webcam go off, we saw him crash into a wall down the straight, so I think actually technical issues for Lane rather than a slowdown for him. Aiden Young up into 13th position, and Albert now going past Chalet, who, it was Chalet who cut the first corner. Apologies for not knowing the Kairos esports drivers off by heart, but either way, now he is definitely losing places because of that. So.
Yeah, and that one out of the final chicane, in terms of the actual slowdown penalty itself, it isn't quite as severe, but because you're coming from low speed, yeah, it hurts quite a bit on that run all the way up to turn 1. So a very frustrating one to get, because especially if you're not totally tucked up behind the car ahead, if you can see the curbs exactly and you know where to place the car, to then pick it up is very, very frustrating.
As Sorchuk having a few connection issues so far, he's blinking in and out, and Max Bangler would be particularly happy with that. You probably know this a bit better than me, Jane, but when you're following a driver who's blinking, does that affect the draft at all, or is iRacing sort of like imagining that the car is there even when they're blinking away?
No, unfortunately, like if the car's not there, it's not there. You're not getting any draft or slipstream from it, so it can be really frustrating and disconcerting as we have a fight for the lead. Sam Jordan making the move on Quattrup. They've been losing time to the chasing peloton, shall we say. So fighting now, lads, is not the strategy. Jordan probably needed to get that done because I don't think Quattrup up front on his own quite has the measure on the group behind.
Yeah, Noel's very much giving Quattrup a vote of confidence there and giving him a bump rather than giving Jordan the bump, and that was how he managed to stay ahead. So maybe we'll see Noel go for the lead soon. But yeah, Velga and Marriott definitely have the pace on these drivers. They are catching up, and will Marriott be alongside Velga? No, he's still just waiting behind. But it's all very even. Nick Madsen now 5.7 seconds behind him for second place in the championship. Started outside the top 30 for this round, did Nick Madsen. So him being up in 10th place is very impressive, but still with plenty of work to go. When we discussed whether this would be a tactical race to him last time, he said no, I'm going to drive as fast as I can for every lap, because that's what I do. So Nick very much is not going to be holding back, and he will be catching up to that pack as soon as possible. Not saying fuel, as Marriott now up into 4th place past Velgert. By the way, leader of the Amateur still Thorsten Seifert. I feel like Thorsten has led many an amateur race so far this season, but often has something go against him. So he's doing really well up there in 16th place, and hopefully he can hold on to it. Nathan Willoughby, one of the most impressive rookies of the season, he's up there with him in 17th.
Let's hope you've not delivered the commentator's curse on him.
Yep.
He has got off to a good start. We'll keep an eye on it and see how he gets on.
So Jordan just dropping down to 5th place. Mayo and Velgert both getting past him, but he's still in the train. And we've now got a lead train of 8, really. Victor Taras is in this. Taras with a 3rd position last time out, I believe, in the overall results. Certainly his best performance of the season was back at Stephen, albeit I feel like maybe something went wrong for him in the close stages. Had a very good heat at least, and then I think slipped down a bit in the A final. But he's up there in 8th place, 3 seconds off the lead, but with a nice draft and some nice fuel saving. Sat behind Philip Hammer as he makes up all that time on the brakes through the Porsche games.
Yeah, it's actually maybe not the nicest spot to be in this far back into the train. As everything checks up, that influences where you can brake. Like, you have to brake so much earlier for corners that maybe you don't want to be under-committing through, like the final chicane, where you want to commit hard and jump over those chicanes, or over those curbs, as much as possible. That's ambitious up the inside. I'm not sure what the objective of that really was, because he's lost a little bit of ground now to Philip Hammer ahead. But yeah, it's very interesting where probably the best place to be to save your fuel but still drive cleanly and not be too affected by the pack ahead. It's probably like 3rd or 4th in line. If you're significantly far behind, as Quattrup, I think, has a slowdown.
Yep.
Oh dear. He might get away with this. He'll have to concede quite a few positions, but I don't think he'll lose so much time that he falls out of the draft of this sort of quite stretched out league group. Taras, I think, also possibly with a slowdown, or at least he's dropped quite a bit of time. And Madsen now up into 8th, 4.4 seconds off the lead. That gap's closing rapidly, and yeah, Madsen's here to play.
He really is. So Kotchup down to 5th place, and he seems to have served that in completion, so I think you're absolutely right there, Jamie, in terms of him still very much being in that pack, albeit Nold and Mario a little bit away. I guess Velgut will be able to make up, well, you can see on the timing tower, Velgut making up huge amounts of times now on the straight, because Marriott's very much being limited by Nold ahead of him, lifts out of it so that he doesn't overtake him. But Madsen can see the leaders ahead of him, 4 seconds off the lead, and that is the gap lap by lap, and you can see he's actually brought it down despite all those overtakes. Really impressive from him so far. Epic battle going on, by the way, for P22. Pedro Espadina, he had a qualifying ban. He's battling with Chris Rance and Thomas Cope and Pahontu and several others, and they all did very well to get through the second Mulsanne chicane without any contact.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Thomas Cope tries to fight his way through this field. And that is that slowdown, or is he just letting them through? It might just be Chris Rance playing it sensible and smart here by letting the pro driver through, and possibly saving a little bit of fuel as well as Marriott to the lead.
As yeah, getting past Nicholas Nold, Velgut and Jordan and Curve all very much caught up in this as well. So Marriott, it's taking him 15 minutes to get back up to the front after that slowdown that he picked up, but he is back there again, ahead of Nold, Velgut, Jordan and Kotchup. Now your top 5, top 6 are part of a pack, but Madsen will undoubtedly join them. Taras with that initially sort of ill-judged move that we saw him attempt at the Dunlop chicane earlier on, and then a bit of an iffy best of the lap as well. He dropped behind Madsen, so he's in 7th place. Philip Hammer not quite with the same pace as we've seen him recently. He scored 3rd most amount of points of anyone 2 weeks ago, and the 2nd most amount of points of anyone before as well, but currently running in 9th.
Yeah, Hammer with a slowdown in Tetra Rouge, based off what we've seen the second time. He's lost 2 seconds there, so that's what's dropped him out of that lead battle as well. But if he sticks tight to Taras, who can maybe stick tight to Madsen, Madsen looks like he has the pace to drag basically anyone kicking and screaming back towards this front pack. So yeah, a long way to go in this race still. We're only just gone beyond 15 minutes, and a lot of strategy still to play out in this one.
There's sort of 2 groups as we see Salvatore lying. Good to see Salvatore actually back out there. He did take a pit stop. He did not take a pit stop. I think he may have just had to stop, restart his computer or something, and get back going again. I did see some technical issues for him earlier on, but he seems to be alright out there now in all of that. But yeah, obviously from pole position he will be gutted with how this race has gone. There are currently 2 packs. We've got the pack from 1st down to 8th position, and we've also got a pack, we've also got this pack as well, to be fair, with Thomas Cypher, or Thorsten Cypher, apologies. Is that a slowdown as well? Maybe just touching the Dunlop chicane a little bit too much. I have cursed him. Well, if that's the worst that happens to Cypher for this meeting,
oh well,
then
you've ruined it. Now it's now more bad.
Oh no! Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Thorsten. He's down to 18th, and Willoughby now leader of the amateur drivers. Oh, Willoughby's now got a slowdown. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, someone's got to lead as well, right?
I think that was Chalet with one as well.
Yeah, I think so. So someone has to lead an AM at some point. They've got to decide amongst themselves.
Yes, Stromae had a qualifying ban, I think, and yet he's right up there as it stands. There was Madsen making up a place, and there was Kotchup turning very wide. Did he get a slowdown for that?
No, I don't think that was a slowdown.
No, he just got overtaken in all that. Bangler having contact and dropping down, and then, of course, in a tricky part of the circuit as well, seeing a slowdown. And Samuel Jordan trying to, well, in fact, he was trying to gain a place, but he actually lost out to Maxime Marriott in this one. Marriott, that was how he got up to 3rd place, and then Jordan proceeded to run wide again, almost hit the wall, and dropped down to 5th. And Madsen making his way past Olaf Sorchuk that time round. And a slowdown for Kotchuk there. Trying to get on the brakes immediately there, Jamie, and just serve it just straight away rather than later on down the straight.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the smarter strategy. I could have definitely employed that a week ago at Spa in Pesk, where I had to take avoiding action in turn 1, picked up slow down and thought, well, I'll get up to the top of the hill out of the way and then clear it, but that cost me way too much time, so I probably should have just jumped on the brakes like he did there.
Yeah, that was good driving from him, and he's still only 0.7 of a second off the lead. That's what we expected from Le Mans. Everything sort of delivering right now. Not a whole lot of surprises. And after that, very strong start for the Pro-Ams. Currently top 4 are all pro drivers, but not much longer. Albert Kotchup back up into 4th place, as they have all just spread out actually a little bit now. In those top positions, as of course they go through that final sector of the lap. Nathan Willoughby has got back ahead of Thorsten Seifert, so those two have swapped positions twice on this lap. And Nick Madsen, he is in the pack, and like I said earlier on, Nick Madsen said last week that he was not going to stress, that he was going to push from start to finish, and yeah, he's just going to go for the lead. So watch out for Nick. He will be making his way up through the order with no hesitation.
One of the pit lane starters you mentioned, Stromeri, I think had an incident in Indianapolis last time by, so he's dropped all the way down to 7th in class, 29th overall, which is shit for him in that huge battle for what was like sort of 3rd place or so with the AM drivers. But yeah, up the front, Madsen has...
It's Velguts.
It is indeed Velgut. This is not a good time for him to get a slowdown. This is probably where in the race you want to consolidate and really start saving your fuel. Things have sort of thinned out a little bit. Everyone's got into a nice groove. You don't want to start losing ground and then need to use a ton of fuel to try and catch back up to the guys ahead.
Ipe Laubscher, after picking up a slowdown himself at the final chicane earlier on, he's pushing the limits through the Dunlop chicane. But the 167 is now in 11th place. He's got past Tiago Pereira. Maybe it was Pereira who cut the chicane earlier on that lap 1. Collided with, I believe, Chalet, and almost caused disaster for the rest of the drivers. That battle for 22nd place is still raging on. It's still a really tight battle. It's just behind these guys. It's Samuel Boykema, a little bit slow there in 17th place, losing out to Nathan Willoughby.
Slow down as well.
Yes, then you got Seifert, Lazarus, Cope, Chalet, and then 5 seconds further back, you've got Samuel Sproul and Espadina. Chris France has just got past Espadina. I think Espadina, maybe with a slowdown, but I don't think you pick it up around that part of the circuit. Has just lost 2 places. Then he's got Pahontsu, and I suppose that Kos hasn't made up more places actually. Kos started from the back because of a pit lane start, as we go 3 wide on the Mustang.
Things you love to see. Hopefully to get through cleanly. You don't need to see too much carnage on the way in here, so someone's going to have to blink here at some point. At the minute, no one has. 3 wide still, on the brakes, on the way in, and Espadina sort of filters back in line. It's got Kos, 2 is inside. Lovely power slide there from Pahontsu, was that? I believe, up ahead. Beautiful power slide in the middle of the first Mulsanne chicane. I love to see a power slide.
Yeah, nice work there. Issues for Mario Velgut. I think he may have just got another slowdown. So Velgut's gone from about a second off the lead to 6.5 seconds off the lead now. So perhaps his chances of winning this race have gone up in smoke. Was very strong at Virginia, was Velgut. I correct myself. Monza. It was Monza that he won out with around a score of 130 points. He didn't cross the line first. It was Maxime Matt who got a penalty post-race due to a collision they had with Nick Madsen, and that promoted Velgut to the top step of the podium, as Sorchuk and Pereira still battling. Pereira never shows any expression whatsoever, even when a car is appearing and disappearing right in front of him, and even when he overtakes a car as well. But we don't know how he looks when that happens, because he hasn't done it. He is still behind in 12th position, but probably getting increasingly irate, sitting behind Seifert ahead of him, as Samuel Jordan has come under increasing pressure from Andrea Del Piccolo.
Yeah, it looks like he's a little bit slow there coming out of Arnage and now side by side coming into the Porsche curves. But up front, Marriott and Nolde have sort of broken clear of Quattro. So I sort of know roughly how big the draft extends to in the series and in this car. And it is about 1.2 to 1.3 seconds, which conveniently is the gap between Nolde and Quattro. So if Nolde can sit really tight behind Marriott and if he backs his pace over Quattro, then these guys could break free. However, it is Madsen directly behind Quattro, and we know what he said. He isn't for hanging about and waiting for anyone. If he's got an opportunity to overtake, he probably will take it.
Yes, yeah, Madsen might well be the saviour of those kind of secondary.
Oh no!
That's round. Oh, this is an absolutely awful lap for Velkert. And he's just towed back. He's had enough. He might. Jeez, that's a loud siren.
That is a loud siren.
Sounded like something from a horror movie, honestly. That sounds just been murdered. But
sounds like the entry to pit lane in Interlagos as well.
Oh really? I haven't heard that one.
Bad.
Okay.
It's horrendous.
I know the one at Nürburgring is deafening. But yeah, that one at Le Mans is pretty crazy. Willoughby and Cope now up to 15th place. Look at the centre the Black Hat Motorsports driver of Lazarus, and he thought there was going to be an opportunity, but there was not. And in fact, it's Lazarus who actually loses out there. Seifert has had his own incident, I think, but I think he's got back going as well pretty quick. But Lazarus, the big loser out there, I think that was really Lazarus's fault there, honestly. You often see those types of moves go wrong, Jane, but that's usually when it's multi-class, when a prototype is going underneath a GT. That sort of looked like a similar dynamic.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it was Willoughby was maybe too kind in letting Thomas Cope through, and Lazarus poked the nose up the inside, and instead of coming back from the dead, he's committed to killing this time, and yeah, that's not gone well. He's ended up paying for it himself, so he's lost quite a few spots, pretty much from his own doing there.
Yeah, so Fert Wangler, ahead of those guys, and now Cope with a decent amount of space to drive into. This one is still going. At one point, I think there was about 8 of them, all with one another. Pahonti now leads it. Pahonti's done well. He's actually gone from the back of this pack to pretty much the front of it, albeit Sproul is sort of a member after Project. It was Lazarus, wasn't it? You had the incident, wasn't it? So Sproul was always with these guys, I believe. Will be actually did lose a second on that last lap too. Pahonti with decent pace. This guy's interesting. 4 seconds a lap slower than the race leaders. I don't think that's their true pace, but it's just them fighting quite as much as they are. The top 2 now 1.2 seconds clear. Quatchup trying to gain something. He's actually had a very nice Mulsanne corner there, Quatchup, so he'll get a bit of a draft, like you were saying, I think before, Jamie, from this distance back, but obviously we're very soon going to be into the tight part of the lap, so an opportunity for the top 2 to start pulling away again.
Possibly, however, Quatchup was a 10th or so quicker last time by than 2 cars ahead. So he's not doing a bad job, but Madsen isn't for waiting around, as we said, and straight through goes Quatchup. Again, probably playing it sensible here, and he's let the dynamic Dane fly through.
Well, in the end, I don't think the qualifying ban has cost Madsen anything. It may have cost him a bit of fuel, but I don't think he would have the pace to pull away from the field anyway. I think he would have had a very similar race to what Marriott's had, if I'm totally honest. And so, a really good comeback from Nick Madsen. Sometimes these these qualifying bans can be more penalising in a long race. Sometimes they can be less penalising than in a heat race. I think tonight he has certainly made it up himself, but he has limited the damage. Sproul looking like he wants to get past Pahonti. So Pahonti, apologies, just getting past Sproul. He was catching up to him very quickly. And Pahonti, I think, might have the pace now to pull away in 17th place. He's already up 18 places, is Pahonti. He started dead last, and he's now midway up the order. And we'll try to be pulling these guys along. And Sproul, I think, will do well not to lose more places as they cross the line for the next lap.
Yeah, he's done a super job from the back, as an arm as well. it's so difficult for those guys towards the rear end of the field to like avoid all of the incidents and carnage that happens. They're always going to have it in front of them to try and avoid. So he's done a super job so far in getting himself up into second place in ARA.
So a few replays of what's gone on earlier on. That was Quatchup getting past Jordan.
Oh.
And that was, I think, maybe Zanon or one of the 3D Rap drivers.
I think
Mary.
I think we called the tail end of that. As we have some guys coming in.
Growl into the pits. Well, he was about to lose a lot more places, wasn't he? So I think he just wanted to get out of that pack and get some clean space. Mario Velgut with his absolute disaster. I mean, when he's making mistakes like that, it almost becomes a question, genuinely, whether he had something wrong with his hardware, because like he was nowhere near making that one.
Yeah, hard to know. Maybe he'll let us know at some point, but yeah, it's really not going well for him. He was in prime position as well to take advantage of everyone, you know, through the pit stop cycle maybe. And, yeah, this is what did for Velgut in the end, and he called it a day after that.
And that was the ambitious move. It was a long way back. I mean, well, we'll see if the stewards have a look at it. If it's reported, then they will do. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that's necessarily going to be a penalty, but could go either way, that one, because yeah, the car head was ever so slow through turn 1. So Madsen now absolutely with these guys. Quatchup has sort of lost the back again, but he's still got, well, he's got enough chance. He'll be back onto them at the end of this lap, but it certainly doesn't seem like Quatchup's got the same pace as he's top 3. Jordan is going to join them as well, and then you've got Del Piccolo Hammer trying to come back into this one as we've got alongside for the lead. Madsen gonna go for it. This is the most ambitious move we've seen him go for so far, but all these other guys are saving fuel, and so they're saying, go ahead, I don't care about track position, and Madsen accepts. And Madsen, half an hour into this race, has nearly gone from 28th to the front.
Yeah, it was a really interesting overtake there because Nolde darted to the inside and then lifted off to save fuel. Madsen just decided to go around the outside. He still saved a little bit of fuel on the way in there. I heard him lift off and just leave the car in top gear before hitting the brakes and coming down through the box. Madsen straight through into the lead, so he's stuck to his game plan. Do I think that's the smartest call to just go straight for the lead? Maybe, maybe not. These guys have generally been saving fuel, just sort of looking at how they've been driving. So, yeah, fascinating to see how this will go.
He's trying to break the
probably
draft.
this. Yeah, he is trying to break the draft. So he's not messing around. He might be pitting this time. Sort of looking at well, how much fuel these guys will have started with and where we are now in the race. So, you know, getting to the front on the in lap is an important part of this, because if you can then jump the pack, if you're like really good through the pit lane, being ahead of everyone to begin with is a huge advantage. So it'd be interesting to see if he dives down to the pit lane this time.
And if he does pit, or if any of these guys pit, I think they'll be around that big pack from sort of 17th down to 23rd, as Jane Fluke earning his money with that prediction that Madsen will come into the pits. They are taking fuel, very high fuel consumption circuit, of course, this, but just about enough fuel to get to the end with just the one stop, with their fuel tanks limited to 60%. So yeah, I mean, this is my prediction. Let's see if I'm accurate as Jamie. When I say that, he'll probably come out around Hugendorn and Eisenring. You'll be hoping that he sort of comes out a bit further back so he gets a bit of clean air, but I'm not sure if he's going to be that lucky.
Or if he could come out further ahead, or just
that would
ahead,
be ideal.
That would be a lot better. It's less likely then he has to deal with anyone on this offset lap. You know, basically trying the undercut here. Bear in mind as well, nobody else in the top 12 has pitted. Madsen's out and away, and let's see where he comes out to. If he can clear Seifert, Sahara as we do in Rance, then that is excellent, and it looks like he has. So as long as these guys don't do anything silly with him coming down between Tetra Rouge and first Mulsanne chicane, this isn't bad for Madsen by any means.
I mean, that is. You could not have come out in a third place. I mean, that is incredible just how well timed that was. Like another second slower in the pit stall, and he would have been in that pack. But no, he's got out ahead of it, and that could be a race winning meal. I would say that he's taken much less fuel than the other drivers. We're seeing 22, 24, 23, 14 seconds for Igor Koss. He pitted a couple of laps ago. 19 seconds for some drivers. For Madsen, he took 17. So, and he did underfuel, remember, back at Monza, and he wouldn't have been saving a lot of fuel at Monza so far in this race. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of confidence, I must say, in the Danish driver when it comes to his fuel numbers. But once we can compare with these race leaders, we're going to have a much better idea. As the top four, Jordan and Kotchuk, very good lap for them. These guys, they're very much back with this lead four. Do you think they'll be able to eke out another lap, do you think, Jamie, or do you think this will be it?
I think this will be it. To save 2 laps in 30 minutes against someone of Madsen's quality is highly unlikely. It's not like Madsen's probably running like a ton of wing either. Like everyone's going to be completely trimmed out around here. So yeah, yes, whilst Madsen has been pushing, so few guys came down into pit lane that time by to top up. A lot of guys did save some fuel and have been able to go another lap, but it's a lot of fuel to get around here. 8-9 litres or so. So to save that in 30 minutes is not reasonable. So yeah, I suspect everyone else will be in this time by.
Yeah, we'll watch out for them, and of course a good way of keeping track with the pit lane times is by clicking on the live timing link in the description below, provided by SDK Gaming, because then you can see the lap times, the gaps, and the pit stop times for all the drivers out there. If you have an extra mod to spare, do definitely click on that, because this is a strategy race. And of course, thanks to SDK Gaming for providing our overlay, our live timing. The software enables us to sync the commentator cameras with broadcaster cameras. Of course, if you want to use SDK Gaming for your streaming, for your broadcasting, or as a heads-up display, do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk in order to get yourself a 14-day free trial. Half a second the gap between Marriott and Nold, as we are expecting a flock of cars all to divert right before the left-hand chicane. It's only the top four, and should be the rest of the field all coming in. And this is the point where you need to see how brave everyone's going to be on fuel, because obviously, Jamie, if you think that you're going to be in the draft for the second half of the race, you can take less fuel than if you think that you're going to be out in the lead. So, but of course, if you take less fuel, you're more likely to be out in the lead. So it's you got to think about it quite carefully.
Yeah, I would say all of these guys would. The sensible strategy is to slightly underfuel it, and then if you need to save, then save it later. It gets you out ahead of any potential post-pit lane battle. So it'll be fascinating to see the pit lane times, the pit stop times of all of these drivers. 17 seconds is what Madsen posted, and yeah, guys are starting to come out of the box now. So 16.9 for Nolde, 17.1 for Hammer, but 18.7 and 19.7 for Jordan. So Madsen's still in the mix here, but Nolde, I think, has got out into the lead.
Yeah, 1/10 slower, 1/10 faster for Nolde. Marriott with a surprising amount of fuel, but he did lead a fair amount of time in that first stint. So he took 18.7, Quatchup with a lot, 20 seconds, and that's left him off. So this has really separated out these drivers. Philip Hammer has won out a bit in that. He only took 17.1, so he's up into 6th position now. Victor Taras with quite a bit of fuel, 20 seconds. And I'm sort of looking to see if anyone's got a speeding penalty, but I think most drivers have been able to avoid it. Maybe Stromeri and Sevilla further down the order seemed they had very long pit stops, but after Monza, where a few drivers fell victim to it, it seems like everyone's been able to get the car stopped before the marker. Maybe a fair bit easier than Monza, seeing that you are already decelerating quite a bit due to the chicanes here, as Madsen moves past into the lead on Nolde. And well, that's a confidence move that he's got enough fuel in the car to get to the end, because he does not feel like he needs someone to punch a hole in the air for him.
It surprises me greatly that he's going for it this way. Either he is way more confident than everyone else in the grid about his fuel number, or he is wrong. It's one of two things. He's going for it. I appreciate the effort. It surprised me because he's taken on what looks like the same amount of fuel as Nolda, and less than Maria and Quattrup and the guys around there, but pitted a lap earlier. So if he could have went a lap longer, he probably would have. I doubt he, would have, left a lap of fuel in the tank and then pitted. So I hope he proves me wrong, because it would be an incredible win. But I'm surprised that he's went with that.
Let us know in the chats, has Nick Madsen put enough fuel in the car? Because Jamie's skeptical, and to say I'm skeptical is an understatement. So I think he is pushing it. We'll see if it works out for him in a race where he really does need to win in order to bring himself back into the championship hunt. Here he is, leading the way. Nolda, is he going to go for it? Marriott's going to go for it. He's going to go into second position. If you didn't go for the lead, you are just going to naturally drop down into second position in that exact way. And those top three all by themselves right now. Nolda not with a race win, at least in an A final so far this season. Is half surprising. His teammate Volker did win back at Monza, but it was a bit of an outside shot, seeing that he was about 10 seconds behind going into the pit stop. So it was only because everyone else on the field that he brought himself back into contention. So would not be surprised if Nolda was to get his first race win of the season tonight. And of course, Albert Quattrup scoring good points for the Pro Am Championship, with Tortoise down in 17th place, still so far away from the oval podiums that Tortoise was getting early on in the season. As we have a fight for the amateur race lead, Espadino has brought himself right into play in this one. However, Willoughby is ahead in the 308. Has he got it stopped? Just about, was running wide, but Espadino had to get out of the dots for himself a little bit as well. Willoughby sort of closes the line, very much risking in case Espadino did outbrake himself, because the gap between the two cars was absolutely tiny. But the English driver is up into 19th position, but I think by their last lap times, these two seem very evenly matched.
Certainly. I thought with a crabbing car, that's not the easiest thing to bring back to pit lane around here, because you have to carry so much speed down the straights, and if the car is doing that, it is quite the handful. Trust me, I've been there around here before. So fair play to him to at least sort of keep it pointing in half a straight line, but yeah, that looks like they're done probably for him.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe he hit the barrier on the exit of Arnage, but it was on the other side of the car that he had the damage. So, apparently he hit Olaf Sorchuk. I think it may have been when he was rejoining the circuit. That's why he had issues. Kevin Richard is into the pit lane. That is his second pit stop, which is one more pit stops than everyone else will be making this race. So that's actually cost him badly. As here they go. Everyone's desperate to lead now in this top three, and if they have, well, we know that Madsen will always be desperate to lead. So if someone else wants to get into the lead, then they're just going to start losing each other a lot of time. This could be when these top three dominance of this race could come to an end. They have got the second trio, Quattrup, Jordan and Hammer, sort of trying to chase him down. Hammer's had really good pace in this race. If it weren't for that slowdown early on, he would have really had a very good chance at this race win. But he's left himself with quite a bit to do, as Marriott now takes the lead. And well, what do you do in this scenario right now, Jamie? If you're one of these guys, do you just say, you know what, I want to lead the race, but I'm going to let you guys lead the race, or do you just have to keep on hammering at it and make your point clear that you are going to be the leader of this train?
I think this is absolute madness at this stage of the race, knowing the Quattrup, Jordan and Hammer are behind and not fighting and not scrapping it out. Those three are working together as a group. It will not take long for this 3-car fight for the lead to become a 6-car fight for the lead, and that reduces all of their chances of winning the race. So if I was any one of these three, I would tighten up a little bit and sit in line and leave the battling for a little bit later in the race, because the group behind are catching.
I wonder if that's what's going through Nicholas Nolder's mind, because I don't think Nolder's necessarily fighting. I think he's probably just thinking, maybe what you're thinking, guys, what are you doing? Like, we've got a podium in the bag here if we don't fight until the last couple of laps. And he's just having to sit in behind them, but he's going to lead going into Indianapolis. Of course, obviously they're costing themselves time, but they're also risking themselves. It's really tricky to run alongside at the best of times through these corners. I know when you're on degrading tyres. Madsen sends it, but slowed down enough for the corner. And Marriott's now trying to break the draft as they approach the Porsche curves. Velkup might do something about this as well. Here was the move for Madsen to get up into second place, and then just a few moments later was able to go around the outside once again into Indianapolis.
Yeah, they were facilitated overtakes. I don't think you had to work super hard for them. You just showed intent, and both positions were sort of quite easily handed to him.
And then, yeah, of course, this fighting all reigniting again with Madsen getting past Velkup, apologies, Nold, on that occasion. And then, yeah, the three of them just constantly switching positions, really, back and forth. This was the mistake from Seifert, and of course he was in contention for the amateur race. And then is it going to be a poor rejump? Yeah, oh well, didn't really have any control over the car and just picked the wrong way. Unfortunately, did cost.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate there. We look back to 20th position, and Corey Lazarus is indeed back from the dead, and you know, in this tremendous scrap with the guys who are fighting for third in class for the amateurs. 2x2 action here into the Porsche curves. Lazarus hanging on for now. Not much that looks like he can gain from this. In terms of extra positions from here, 20th looks like a ceiling unless something else happens, as Molrod is back into the pits. It looks like.
Well, he only took 9 seconds of fuel earlier on in the race, it looks like, so maybe he had to pit on lap 2 or something and put some more fuel in it. That early pit stop perhaps earlier on for him cost him, as the 206 sends it. That is Sproul making his way back up. He was at the front of this pack member, Sproul, at one point, but then came into the pits very early. Pits on the same lap as Madsen, a lap earlier than most other drivers. I thought that was a tactical move. Maybe he just didn't have the fuel to continue, but he is trying to make his way back through that now. Still, these guys still seem to be in the same order. I think Hammer, if anything, is the fastest one of these three, but he's happy to stay at the back of it. He's not really showing any intent on moving his way up, and so it's still Quatchop leading the way out of this trio. And most of the drivers separating out. Really, the only other battle was that one that we were looking at before with Pahontu and Zaharia, Sproul and Rance. And then you got the lead trio, and then this secondary trio in 4th, 5th and 2nd.
Yeah, Hammer, I guess it's in his best interest to sit and wait this out because he took less fuel than Jordan Quatchop ahead. So maybe he knows more than what Madsen does in terms of fuel. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows? Like, this will all play out on the last lap of the race, I'm sure. But they're not closing up now on this leading trio, who are still sort of duking it out a bit. And I mean, they're putting on an entertaining show, don't get me wrong, but for their own personal interests, I sit in line, and I guess Marriott is the car that you want up front because he took the most amount of fuel on board in the stop. But yeah, for Madsen and Nolde, sit in line, let this all play out, and then dice it out in the last lap when everyone probably has enough fuel to make it to the end.
Yeah, they're not doing that. Madsen up to the lead once again. They're not going to be tight on laps. It's going to be 3 more laps to go after this one. Simple enough. Always appreciate when it's a nice round number, 4-minute lap time. It's this one, so as long as they cross the line after the 48-minute mark, they will have 3 more laps to go in this race. So no confusion in regards to that. So yeah, it's not to say they're tight on one lap or the other. Tiago Pereira by himself at the moment in 10th place. Had some tight battles earlier on, actually. Pereira had a really good qualifying. I was up in 6th place, but had some setbacks early on. He's done well to get back into 10th place. Victor Taz has had a quiet one. He's very much by himself as well in 9th. As Philip Hammer, he's gone for it. He's all of a sudden gone from the back of that group to the front of it. So maybe Hammer had enough. He saved enough fuel and now he's gone to the top of that one.
It's hammer time. And the hammer's been put down, and away he goes. We'll see what he's made of in terms of pace, because the front three have not been especially quick, because they've been sort of scrapping away. Logsher, for example, in P8 was a good 1.4 seconds quicker last lap than Madsen. Sort of shows what these guys are sort of playing at a little bit. So yeah, let's see if Philip can put the hammer down and catch these guys.
Yeah, let's see if he can handle the pressure of being in that position. Really close right now between Sproul, Zaharia and Rance. I'm just seeing it's 3 wide further down the order. That's for 20th position. How are they going to sort this one out? They're getting into the Porsche curves. Of course, Walk Racing recently winning the LMP2 Championship in the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship, and also entering the Apex Racing League Endurance Championship, which is coming up in a few weeks' time. So that's still open for that one. Entries open at apexracingleague.com. 3 classes, LMP2s, LMDHs and GTDs. That's a bizarre order to read them out in. And 6 rounds, including a round here at Le Mans, along with Spa, Watkins Glen, Road America, Road Atlanta, and several others as well. So do check that out if you're a fan of endurance racing and want to get into a league, and £1,500 of prizes as well, along with a few extra prizes as well, which we'll be announcing on the Apex Racing League social medias. Make sure to follow them as well on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. 10 minutes to go. Now, back at Monza, when they all underfield, they'd already sort of been holding back. They sort of sacrificed the 45 to 55 minute range to save fuel and then pushed it for the last 5 minutes. We're still not seeing any fuel conservation from these drivers, even though we're still convinced that, or at least I'm convinced that Madsen's underfueled. That's an ambitious move there from Nold, but he backs out of it again. And the gap to the second pack still maintained, but you see Hammer's absolutely pushing him. He's almost dropping Quattro. That's how fast Philip Hammer is, and he is. Yeah, has brought it down a little bit. It's 4.4 seconds, but he needs a bit more than that if he's going to catch by the end.
He does, and I suspect he's also going to need a helping hand getting pushed along down the straight if he can get it. So he kind of needs Quattro to bump him along, and then Hammer to push it along through the corners and sort of drag Quattro with him. Madsen set the quickest lap of anyone last time by of a 56.2, comfortably quicker than the chasing trio. So I suspect as long as those guys have enough fuel, they're probably in good shape. Madsen is getting pushed now by Marriott, which is an interesting strategy. I think these guys are sort of jostling, but also just trying to keep the pace high enough to not bring animals. What? That's a big move right now.
Oh, well, he's done well to get that one stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really high quality driving when they're alongside one another, and respectful driving. Remember, I don't want to turn it into too much of a soap opera, but there might be a bit of sort of tension between Madsen and Marriott, because they did collide back at Monza. Madsen, I think, feeling like he had that race win taken away from him by Marriott. They raced very respectfully, to be fair. Stephen was sort of denied a really good bounce because Madsen was leading 2 corners into the A final, and then he made a mistake, and that's sort of what cost him any chance of winning that one. I think they would have had a really good battle, because it did seem like Marriott was the faster driver that night. But Stephen, very tricky circuit to overtake. Would have been tricky for him to pull that one off, but we are seeing that battle renewed, that rivalry renewed here at Le Mans for this round of the championship, with 2 more laps to go. I mean, to be fair, I was saying earlier on that they're miles away from making it. Actually, they're not that far away from making it at 3 more laps, but they are definitely going to miss out. It's not a question. I do wonder if maybe if Madsen has anticipated, or any of these other drivers has anticipated, 1 more lap than the others have done. But yeah, 2 laps to go as Samuel Sproul up ahead of Tommy Molliard up ahead of Samuel Sproul. Molliard with an extra pit stop he had to take, of course, and that is why he is quite so far down. Also, Corey Lazarus overtook Razvan Pahontu on that last lap. Lazarus back up to 19th place. Good recovery drive, but he's not out of the woods yet. Still a close pack between the pair.
Jordan and Quattro for P5, however, Hammer has gone, and looks like Quatchup is really struggling for pace at the minute.
Is he saving, you think?
He should have been doing it a lot earlier than that. To be sort of struggling at this phase of the race. It looks like everyone else is showing their hand, and he doesn't have anything else to sort of bring to the table at this point. Nolde weaving behind. I suspect he's like comfortable, or at least pretty good in field, but he's just trying to put Maria and Madsen under pressure or put them off a little bit. I reckon he's waiting for the last lap of the race. Madsen and Maria, again, probably to your point, maybe like, we're not going to exaggerate this too much, but they did have contact earlier in the season, and they are 1 and 2 in the championship. There might be a little bit of one-upsmanship about all of this, and neither wants to concede ground to the other, even if it is to the detriment of both their races. It'd be interesting if we just stay on board with Nicholas Nolan to see what he does. Yeah, he's lifting off halfway down the straight. These guys up ahead are sort of juking it about and weaving a little bit down the straight. This might end in tears.
You really could. You really could. Shout out to Apex Racing Academy, by the way, because the title sponsor for this championship, and also a provider of a free subscription to every single one of the drivers out here. 1 month bronze subscription gets given to the drivers, as this is not the time to read out sponsors when they are slaloming, making a few extra corners here at Le Mans. I did once suggest that they should move the Suzuka S's to Le Mans and put it down the Mulsanne straights, and that would be an improvement on this circuit, and they're almost enacting that right there as they're trying to break the draft. Marriott moving alongside. Is Nold going to get there in? Well, oh, he gets a huge shove there, and that will very much help Nick Madsen. So he's got a friend up there, does Madsen, and Nold might be able to go through as well. No, he lifts off very early and allows Marriott back past. But yeah, Apex Racing Academy offering data packs for all these drivers, and of course over 20 cars supported by Apex Racing Academy, and those data packs including setups, track guides, and group coaching sessions, and much else. So do check out apexracingac.com, and do check out their social media as well, because there's little clips of a few of the hot laps each week. So if you want to get faster, that's a good way to learn. As Nathan Willoughby off the circuit, he reaches the gravel as well, and that might just be the amateur race win for Pedro Espadina.
I feel like that's another one that we've cursed at some point during the course of this race. Willoughby looked really confident and comfortable up front. I think it is 7-second gap to the next AM driver, and Espadina has caught him and put him under pressure, and now has himself a, for now, touch wood, comfortable AM lead.
Yes. So 55, 57, 58, we are getting to the 56-minute mark, and from this point onwards, they are not going to be able to complete another lap. We are going on to the white flag lap now, and I do wonder if Madsen has only got enough fuel to do this one extra lap whilst other drivers fueled for another lap, because we're only missing out on an extra lap by about 15 seconds right there.
Slightly less than that, actually.
Yeah.
Given the time's 3:56, 3:55 actually from Hammer, who is absolutely flying along at the minute. This race was not far away from going another lap, so maybe Madsen's pulled a blinder here, and everyone else has missed a trick. We'll see by the end of the lap.
You might well be right, and of course we look back and how important that little less fuel that he had, because it meant that he came out ahead of that big pack of drivers. Obviously, maybe he would have been able to, he's been so quick after he came from, 28th position in this race, so maybe coming out behind those drivers wouldn't have been too bad for Nick Madsen, but it certainly did help him. And he does look like he is absolutely fine on fuel. In fact, the gap has actually opened up to over half a second, maybe with a slight mistake, and he's trying to break the draft as much as he possibly can now is Madsen. But I think Marriott's happy just to stay in a straight line here and have Nold give him a shove down the straight. He doesn't need the slipstream, does Marriott?
He doesn't, but you don't want to... Again, I feel like this is one-upsmanship where Madsen's waving about to break the draft, and Mario's like, yeah, I mean, you can do that, but I'm not going to play your game. I'm just going to let Nicholas push me along here. This is going to be fascinating once we come out of Mulsanne, if these guys get that far without anything happening.
Yes. Is he going to go for it into the second chicane? You think he's just going back out of it, but problem is, if he does, then there's Noel to go for it as well. How much is Hammer going to gain? Mario is going to go back to the lead that he took just 2 corners into this race. And he's back there for what feels about the 10th time, but he's very slow on the exit, really slow. I think they all had to hold up, and Madsen will move alongside. Noel's going to have a terrific run at these gyros, and Hammer's got the gap down under 2 seconds. This could be a big move, as there's contact between the two of them. They just merge like 2 magnets joining in the middle of the circuit right there. They're leaving absolutely nothing for one another. Madsen's going to have to really send it in deep if he's going to make this move. He takes the apex as normal. That was an incredible line from him right there, but a really nice exit for Maxime Marriott. He'll have a chance into Indianapolis.
Yeah, this is probably where the race can be won and lost. It's very hard to make a move out of R&R, so side by side now. And Nolde's going through the hard shoulder and up over the curb. This is his time to shine as well, and time to pounce. We might be 3 wide coming into Indianapolis here.
We're seeing Marriott pull off this outside move already so far, but that was all well still sparring. This is when it properly matters, and Madsen is carrying much more speed this time. He covers off the inside. Marriott's not quite there. Marriott now goes wide, and Madsen makes contact, and it will surely be a race win from here on in for Nicholas Knoll. But that is not the battle over, because Philip Hammer has made it a German 1-2 now out in the lead. It's Door Esports leading WS Racing Esports. Mag Performance is ahead of Manatee, and this is big for the championship if Madsen can beat Marriott in this race. And Hammer will be looking at the race leader. He'll be wishing he was there, but he will take this second place, considering where he was at the halfway stage. No one close enough into the Porsche curves, and the options are very much limited from this point onwards, unless someone is spluttering to the line. This will surely be how the drivers finish, and Nicholas Nord, who was the patient one throughout this race, he was waiting behind as well as the top 2 in this race. Top 2 in the championship were fighting it out, but he kept it patient. And the Door Esports driver, who's had to play the bridesmaid a few times so far this season, is just a couple of corners away from taking a very memorable race victory. Hammer still 0.6 of a second behind. Into the 4 chicanes they enter for the final time, and it will be Door Esports and Nicholas Knoll to take the race win at Le Mans, and 130 points as well to his tally. Hammer finishes in second place. Madsen does beat Marriott, which, considering he started 26 places lower than him on the grid, he will probably take, albeit both of them will be thinking, could they have won that race? Well, they could have definitely won that race, but I don't think they were going to let each other win that race.
No, that's what it looked like to me. Nolde played it perfectly, really. He put those guys under pressure at the right moments and got them fighting and scrapping, and then when it finally came to blows, he was there to pick up all the pieces.
They're still bouncing behind. I think Vichard is slightly slow up ahead of these guys, but this one is just, the 21st position has been their most highly coveted position throughout this race, because it has not been a let-up whatsoever. Chris Rance may be the most action-packed race of the evening, to be honest, because he has been overtaking and being overtaken constantly, and he's got Bahontu ahead of him. Thorsten Seifert, who's had his own issues with slowdowns and an off at Molstein corner a few laps ago as well. There was no moves into the 4 chicanes for the leaders. There might be a move here. Seifert looks at it, but he realised that that gap was closing up, and he will have to wait behind. But it's a very slow exit for the 386. It'll be close to the line, but it comes up very quick here at Le Mans. And that is it for Bahontu, who beats Rance and beats Seifert. And the rest of the drivers will cross the line. In fact, it'll be our pole sitter Salvatore, who I think will be the last driver across the line. But pretty incredible stuff there, Jamie. And, well, we will, I think, transition over to the studio whilst the drivers are all crossing the line. And, well, we will go into some more depth with it and have a chat with a few of our drivers in just a moment. Be back in a minute. Well, we knew that it was going to be all about strategy, and it absolutely was, picking your moves when it mattered. And that crucial pit stop sequence as well, how much fuel did you take? Did you take enough fuel to go that extra lap? It was all pivotal tonight. Jamie, I mean, would you say necessarily that the fastest man out on circuit necessarily won today? I mean, how would you say that the balance was? Because it looked like you needed to be a second lap faster just to be able to break the draft.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was ever going to break the draft over the entire field. So being the absolute fastest driver isn't super important around here. It's all about being the smartest, the cleanest, most efficient driver. And that today was Nicholas Nolte.
Yeah, he absolutely thoroughly deserved that race victory, and we should be able to bring you the race results then for this round of the championship. And of course, big points with the single race in action, 130 points going to our race winner, and yeah, absolutely crucial stuff for the title. And so it was Nicholas Knowles who was able to take the race victory up ahead of Philip Hammer. Nick Madsen in third position, beating his championship rival Maxi Marriott, but still good points for Marriott in the championship. Samuel Jordan in fifth position. There's Albert Quatchop, who was top of the Pro-Ams. Ivo Laubscher was in seventh place. There's Del Piccolo, second place out of the Pro-Ams. Pereira and Taras rounds out the top 10. Then it was Cope, who came back well. Fert Bangler, Young, Boykema, Chalet, Yatortus, who had a very quiet race in 16th places. Championship lead gets cut down more and more each round. Espadina won out in the amateur judge. Really good comeback from him. Nathan Willoughby nearly caught back up to him in the closing stages in second place. Then it was Corey Lazarus, Kevin Richard, Razvan Pahontu, Chris Rance, Thorsten Seifert, Samuel Sproul, Tommy Molliod, Maihei Zaharia, Ed Eisering, who was championship leader going into this. I'm not sure if that will still be the case. Igor Kos was in 28th place. He was unlucky with a rejoin from another driver earlier on in the race. There was Matteo Stromeri, Paul Joseph Klist, Salvatore Lane, who started up on pole position. That feels like a lifetime ago. Jordi Silvia was in 32nd. There was Ola Sorchuk, Danny Hugendorn and Mario Velgert in 35th position. Velgert, of course, after that race win back at Monza, wasn't able to back up his performance in these hour-long races. And yeah, we should be able to have a chat with a few of our drivers. And first up, it is going to be hopefully with Nicholas Knowles, who joins us in the interviews now. Nicholas, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent stuff. Well, you must feel absolutely delighted with that one. First up, let's take us through, like, you know, part of the race by part of the race. That first half of the race, what was it like managing, you know, the fuel and, you know, your position on circuit? What was going through your mind in those early stages?
Yeah, I laughed a lot, I can say that, because in the first lap, I think a lot of the guys in front of me got slowdowns, and therefore I gained places, and then I could just stay behind. I think it was Maxi Marriott, I'm not sure, but whoever was in front of me, I could just stay behind, save fuel, and then I didn't use this fuel I saved at the pit stop. I fueled too much, so I probably could have had a bit more of an advantage after the pit stop. But yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you say that you fueled up too much, but I mean, it was only 10 seconds, it looked like, between you making the extra lap. So did you, when you fueled up, did you anticipate that extra lap? That was why you took more fuel?
Yeah, I thought we would go, I think it was 16 laps, I thought, but miscalculation. I didn't have a fuel calculator, I just calculated in my head and did something wrong.
Well, you did well considering that was not far off in the end. And then in that sort of second half of the race, you were in third position. You had Maxime and Nick battling furiously ahead of yourself. What was going through your mind? I mean, were you thinking, you know, were you trying to overtake them as well, or were you happy to stay in third position in that?
I was really happy to stay in third position because I thought their fighting was complete nonsense. We could have just pulled away easily and drove away from Philip and the other guys behind, and I just stayed behind, didn't want to risk anything until the last lap, and it worked.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I mean, like, if it came down to the Porsche curves, were you going to make it maybe three? We saw you sort of make it a bit three wide just beforehand, but were you just basically pinning your race win hopes on them colliding?
Yes, exactly. Yep. they went side by side a lot of times, especially through Indianapolis, and I just thought at one point that's not going to end well, and it worked.
Absolutely did. I mean, perfect strategy, it worked, and that must be a really satisfying race win for yourself. Looking, across the championship so far, like obviously this is the highlight of the season, but have you learned a lot about the Porsche Cup so far this season, which has kind of culminated in this race victory?
Yes, I learned a lot. I didn't drive the car for I think half a year, and wanted to get back to it, and the series was perfect for it, and felt getting more comfortable with the car over the season, also with qualifying, and yeah, it's just great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
My team, esports. I like them. That's it.
Excellent stuff. That's the best endorsement I think we've heard for a team on the channel. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, and best of luck for the final 2 rounds of the season.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So that was Nicholas Nold there, your race winner tonight. And I mean, he was pretty much saying what you in particular were saying, Jamie, out there, just the Batsing up ahead of him were silly, and he just waited for them to crash.
Yeah, exactly. And interesting that he mentioned about the fuel as well, where he felt he'd put too much fuel in. The other guys must be kicking themselves for how much extra fuel they must have put in, given that they were stationary for probably upwards of 2 seconds, more than, as it turned out, they needed to. And Madsen did end up playing it spot on. He pitted the lap early. He must have saved some fuel, a little bit of fuel, otherwise he definitely wouldn't have made it. So he played it brilliantly up until, the last lap of the race, where it all came to blows between him and Marriott.
Yes. Well, would you like to have a chat with Nick right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, Jimmy here in the interview room. Got a copy of us.
I'm here.
How's it going? That looked like a frantic race. Beforehand, you said that you went, or that your plan was to go, full attack, no saving of fuel. Did you save any fuel, as you were fighting through, or was it just complete full send?
Not really complete full send. As I said the race before in the interview, I didn't want to fuel save that much because that maybe cost me the win at Monza. But here I've only fueled for 15 laps, so after the pit stop I really wanted to control the race, so I was sure that we were only doing 15 laps. As Sam was saying, we were only 10 seconds close to another lap, so I was really happy to take the lead and could control the race. So kind of 2 laps before I slowed down a little bit and saved fuel, if you want to call it that.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting, and now I actually fully understand your strategy. So the strategy element played out perfectly, but then we come to Indianapolis on the final lap. Talk us through it.
As I did a few laps before, going side by side with Maxim, I knew that I was a little bit quicker. Maybe he was scared to be on the outside, but I clearly had the inside for the second corner on the left-hander, and I'm actually quite mad now because I feel like today was my second race win Maxim took away from me. Also at Monza, so in the championship standings, with 2 quali bands I had, I really tried my best today to keep up and make an awesome race to gain many positions. And once I saw them inside 5 seconds, I knew I could get them. But I'm a little bit mad of not winning again today. So this is how it is.
Yeah, I can totally understand the frustration and the disappointment, but you drove a superb race. Still solid points, you've not really lost any ground, so I guess there's some positives to take from that. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you want to give?
You guys always for a great broadcast, and also my teammate Andrea Del Piccolo, who decided to make the race today, as he's filled off a little bit in the championship standings, but he was kind of a big help also when catching the front group. He made me inside of the second and still keep the gap close to the guys in front. So that was a good step to pass him to top 8.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nick, for joining us, and congratulations on a superb drive.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's rare that you go from 28th to a podium and be disappointed.
Yeah.
But that was how the race went. I mean, in half hour 3, he's in the race lead. And yeah, unfortunately wasn't able to, but fascinating that he was deliberately holding up.
Yeah.
So it makes sense now, really. And it sort of makes sense as well why Maxime was trying to pass him, because Maxime's thinking, oh, I see, maybe Maxime saw what he was doing, thinking, I've got to get into the lead here and drag these guys along to get the extra laps. So, you know, it seemed sort of silly, but I guess everyone sort of had their own rational sort of ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So Nicholas was like, well, save fuel, I'm only good for 15 laps, let these guys knock each other off. Nick was like, well, it's only going to go 15 laps, let's get out front and control the pace. And Maxime was like, well, I've got fuel for 16, let's get a move on and let's make it go 16. And that's how we generated the race that we did. And I mean, yes, on face value it looked a little silly from the front 3, but now it all makes total sense, and what a fascinating race it was.
Yeah. We just need to make it so that every race within 10 seconds of the extra lap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it causes absolute craziness out there. Next up, we've got Andrea Del Piccolo joining us in the interviews. Andrea, congratulations, really strong performance from yourself today. How was it racing out there? Because it looked really intense over such a long race like that, with the close battling that was out there.
Hi everyone. Yeah, it was a long race. 1 hour racing with Porsche Cup is incredibly hard. But yes, I felt good with the car. Tried to stay with the top guys, but when I lost the draft, I couldn't manage to follow them.
And when you mentioned dropping the draft, what exactly was it that dropped the draft for you? Was it that during the pit stop sequence?
Sorry?
When was it that you lost the draft to the cars ahead? Was it during the pit stops, or was it during some other point of the race?
No, at some point I saw that my teammate Nick was coming behind me. It was a lot faster than me, and I didn't want to slow down him. So I tried to let him by without losing any time. But after that I did a mistake and lost the draft a little bit. So, you know, when you lose the draft on this track, it's hard to get back.
Absolutely, it very much is. And when it came to how much fuel you put in the car, were you fueled up for that one extra lap, or was that all the fuel that you had in the car at the checkered flag?
No, honestly, I think that I did a mistake at the pit stop, and I had something like 2 more laps. So I let's say I took 1 extra lap for the photos.
Yes, there you go. That's a very good explanation. Absolutely, yeah. +1 to see that one. Next up, we are heading to Silverstone. How is that circuit in the Porsche Cup, and have you driven this car track combination in the past?
Yeah, I think that it will be a very different race. It's a very technical track, and yeah, I think that there will be more difference between top drivers and the other drivers, because in Le Mans, if you don't lose the draft, maybe you are they can help you. Let's say that they can help you with the draft, and you can stay with them. But I think that in Silverstone will be hard, and we will have the heat format, I think.
Yes, yeah, it'll be the return of the heat format. Well, good luck on that one, Andrea. Hopefully you can keep up this this good form that you built up tonight. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, always Nick, because we train together, and he helped me with all the team because the last race I got spawn, and I was so angry, but yeah, they gave me the motivation to come back.
Awesome stuff. Well, we're very glad that you did come back, and good luck on next week, and hopefully we can see you back up in the top 10.
Thank you very much. See ya next time.
Andrea Del Piccolo there, 8th position tonight. Good points for him. I mean, he was one of those many drivers who was in that pack early on, and he said just one mistake, you drop the drop, and that changes your entire race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a key point. I think actually what worked out well for Albert up front, who ended up winning in Pro-Am. He was able to stick with the front guys at the start. He didn't make any big mistakes, or ones that he did make, he didn't get punished for. Like, I think he had one slowdown and was still able to stay in draft because he was so far, towards the front of the pack. He just sort of slipped towards the back of it. So, it's so fascinating when we come to Le Mans to see how it all plays out, because, if you have the draft, you look rapid, you look fantastically quick, and you're getting pulled along, and all of a sudden, if you lose it, then you can be left wanting sometimes.
Definitely, yeah, and even those slowdowns making an interesting kind of strategy point. And I think we've got Maxime ready as well. I'll hand him over to you, James.
No worries, I'll happily take it. Maxime, a fascinating race from start to finish, all round. You started up, towards the front, and then had to slow down, and then fought your way back towards the front. Talk us through sort of like the first half of the race. Were you saving a lot of fuel? How was that for you?
Hello guys. I tried to be safe in the beginning. I just wanted to save fuel some liters, and stay on the 2 or 3 first position. I took a slowdown. It was weird because I was on my line like every other laps, and it was a slowdown that happened. So it was fun to catch the lead. It was some 3 or 4 laps with some battles, so it was fun. And then I was, I think, with Niklas Nold. We were safe fueling together, and on a moment we saw a little gap, so we tried to do some fast lap and take some second on the other guy. Yeah. And then the pit came, and I just put like 6 or 7 liters too much, I think.
I think we've got this all generally worked out, having now watched the race unfold, and then speaking to both Nicholas and then Nick as well, with their respective fuel strategies. So Nicholas's strategy was to sit behind and watch yourself and Nick duke it out for the win and maybe pick up scraps, which is ultimately what ended up happening. And then Nick's strategy was he'd only enough fuel for that number of laps. If it went any longer, then he would have run out of fuel. So what was your strategy then for the second half of the race? Because it looked like yourself and Nick were sort of dueling it out, and it didn't make too much sense from our perspective.
I was praying for the race to go with 16 laps, because I got too much fuel, and I was 100% sure I was like 1 lap more fuel than the other. So I tried to take the lead and to do some fast lap to do the extra lap, and it doesn't happen because we were fighting with Nick, I tried to keep the lead because I think I was a bit faster in the end. My tire wear was good, but it was impossible to going away with this draft at Le Mans. So we were fighting until the end. It was quite fun. And I don't know if Nick did a mistake on Indianapolis. He was really, I think he understeer a lot on the first Indianapolis corner, and then I think he did a mistake on the second one, the left one. So we got a little touch. It was impossible for me to anticipate all that. So we got this incident, and we lost a lot of time and points on the championship, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's sort of what it looked like from our perspective. It looked like a really hard fight there towards the end, and a little bit of a check up there at the end, and ended up costing you both time. But moving forward now towards Silverstone, totally different type of circuit to this. What's your expectations for that?
I will miss Silverstone. I will be at Spa next weekend in real life, so it will be my job week.
That's a shame. I would love to see you on the grid, but certainly enjoy Spa and have a good weekend there. But before we let you go, anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, my team, like usual, they are doing a good job every time to try some setup or some some strategy and to help. So yeah, I want to thank them, and thank you too for the show. Every time good to see the replay.
Yeah, many thanks as well, Maxime. Yeah, great to have you put on the show for us, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple of rounds' time.
Yeah, so Maxime, you know, unfortunately with that missed round next week, fortunately Maxime being so consistent throughout the season, his drop score is very good, so you know, still looking good for him in the championship, but you know, I wasn't aware of that one, so we'll certainly give hope to Madsen and co that they can bring it back in the championship. Next up is Aiden Young, who joins us now. Aiden, in the end, 13th position out there, a little bit lower than what we saw you back at Monza when we last had the 60-minute race. I mean, it looked like just by the sorts of the qualifying pace, maybe you were just sort of lacking maybe that quarter of a second tonight. I mean, what was it that, or maybe was it something else from your perspective?
I was actually struggling with my setup and the car the whole week. I could drive a fixed setup fine, but then when I switched to open, my setup was just super bad. It was really understeery. I don't know what was going on, but I did know that after the little contact on lap 1 and turn 2, where I'm not quite sure who it was. I think it was Kevin Richard, who was spun in the middle of the track. Obviously, I couldn't avoid him. I just had to give him a little tap back around. That gave me damage, and I was down in the straight because this track's a draft track, so you don't want any damage at all. You want the best chance you can at being fast in the straight line to keep up with everybody, and it was tough with the damage because I was losing about 5 to 6 tenths in a straight line, and then I was only losing about a tenth in a corner. But you put that together, that's 7 to 8 tenths per lap and pretty much per straight, and it was losing like probably 3 seconds on pace a lap, which was very disappointing. But I fixed the damage in the pits, and then right there at the end I started getting quicker. I think I put in a 3-minute 57.5. Started gaining the confidence in the car. I didn't switch tires because I knew I had lost time, so I just figured just put in the fuel and then just go to the end on old tires and try to just make it the best I can, try and pick up many positions, and I ended up gaining about 3 or 4 in the end, which I still am happy with considering I was struggling the entire race.
Yeah, for sure. 13th position. Yeah, considering, you know, your start position and then, yeah, the issues that you mentioned in the early stages, which, yeah, obviously weren't your fault when you had that car slide straight in front of you, was a very good recovery for yourself. Looking ahead to next week, 1, are you looking forwards to the heat format? And 2, are you looking forwards to Silverstone?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the heat format because it gives you a little bit of a break, because like you could either be in heat 1 or you could be in heat 2 depending on your qualifying. If you're in heat 1, you do your heat 1, then you get a 12-minute break because you have the next 10-minute heat to finish, or that you have to wait till that finishes, and then you got the little 2-minute warm-up, and then you go to the feature. So it's nice because you get a little break there to kind of just relax and watch the other people race, and if there's any fast guys in there, you can watch them, see what they're doing, and see what you need to improve on, or if you just need to improve in general.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting kind of insight to, yeah, what you can do during those races, and yeah, get some tips from the drivers whilst the other guys are racing. Is there anyone you'd like to give shouts out to, Aiden?
Yes, I'd like to give a shout out to my team, pretty much like I do every race, No Limit Sim Racing, for them helping and supporting me through the season, even though I may not be quite necessarily anywhere, but trying to go for P10, obviously at a championship that's this hard, that'd be an amazing result for me. It boosts my confidence a lot, and it'd probably just make me push harder to do better when Porsche Cup does their next season, in ARA Porsche Cup. I'd also like to thank my friends for watching me, and then my spotter for spotting for me today, which is a good buddy of mine. And then one of the team bosses of No Limit Sim Racing, Alex, for giving me some setups as a base, and I use those. And I'd just like to thank my teammates for also helping me with practice and stuff, and you guys for the awesome commentating.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the kind words, Aidan, and we'll see you back in 7 days' time.
Yep, see you guys.
Aidan Young there, 13th place finish for Aidan, and yeah, decent damage recovery. We didn't really see a whole lot of Aidan out there, but like, he's usually in the top 10 in the race, and honestly around here, you know, he'd be a guy like Quatchup. Honestly, I would say he'd be, you know, if he got in that chart, he would have a good chance, but he was just missing that little bit that he needed in order to get into that lead pack. Yeah, and we actually seen, just as you know, you were talking to him there, him in the pit lane, the damage getting repaired. So he definitely had something on the front end there that was really hurting him in a straight line, and by that point he's probably used more fuel just to, you know, get through to the pit stop, and then, you know, he's lost more ground there. It's so hard then in the second half of the race to really fight back, but 13th isn't bad. He can move on to next week at Silverstone and hope for a better day. Yes, yeah, he'll be certainly hoping for that one. Well, that's pretty much everything that we have got time for this broadcast. Of course, if you've enjoyed this broadcast, do please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. And of course, check out our social media pages as well for highlights from all our Apex Racing League series. So check out the Apex Racing League and Apex Racing TV, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts. Also check out the Apex Racing UK TikTok account as well. Of course, if you are interested in signing up to any of Apex Racing League series, particularly the Apex Racing League Endurance Championship, do check out the apexracingleague.com website. Sign up details and more information on the series is over there. Should be a mega championship. Already 35 teams signed up within a week, so do make sure to sign up very soon to confirm your place on the grid. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, and from Jamie Fluke, we are going to be saying goodbye, and we'll see you back next week at Silverstone. See you then.